What up? What up? Welcome back to another episode of Debate with Bait, brought to you by Most Serious Entertainment in the heart of Missouri City, Texas. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. Charles Baker, aka C Bait. That's my co-host, Gerard Cole, aka Cole, aka Rude Boy, aka Mr. New York, aka The Wire. What's the deal? Cole, man, we back at it, man.
Yo.
Live here in Rikers right now. I'm chilling over here, man.
Man, what's going on, man? It's good to see you, man. We back for another episode of Debate with Bait. Before we get started, let's take care of some business. Make sure all of y'all follow Most Serious Entertainment on Instagram and Facebook. Please subscribe to Most Serious Entertainment on YouTube. We got another special guest in the house tonight. Well, he's really not a guest, but we got another brother from a mother. JT, Mr. JT, the golden child in the house.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Coming
sir.
to give us a third leg on this podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Cole,
sir.
what's up?
We good here. We chilling over here, man. I'm ready to get into this conversation today. We had a lot of stuff going on last week. We had the Javante Davis. We had the football stuff coming up. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight.
We sure do, man.
We do.
I had to ask you again because I had to make sure. I know I asked what's up twice, but I wanted to make sure that was you, man, because you do look like a totally different dude. But that is Cole, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's him.
All
Yeah,
right.
man, repping our alma mater right here. You see
That's
it.
right. That's right. Shout out to Binghamton University, State University in New York. Cole is representing. And Cole has not converted to Islam, ladies and gentlemen.
Look at.
That's just his, I guess, because we going early, his early afternoon attire.
Yeah.
So without further ado, like Cole said, we got a lot of business to take care of. We got a lot of bills to pay. First on the agenda this week, yes, sir. Just in case you didn't know, and if you don't know, you're not a real boxing fan. Fight week. Javante Tank Davis, 28-0 with 26 knockouts, defended his WBA World Lightweight title, which is 135 pounds, regular belt, WBA, by stopping the challenger Hector Luis Garcia, the WBA super featherweight champion at 130 pounds, in the 8th round by landing a right uppercut that wobbled Garcia. And at the 13-second mark of the 9th round, referee Albert Errol Brown ended the contest by giving Davis a 9th round knockout in defense of his WBA lightweight title on Saturday night in front of a rocket sellout crowd. In fact, they said at the Capitol Center, this is one of the highest grossing events as far as population and money. Tank sold it out, set a record. He was the headline on the PBC card on Showtime. Davis ultimately pulled away with the victory. Of course, Davis is now 28-0 with 26 knockouts. And now he's looking towards a mega fight against Ryan Garcia in the spring. First and foremost, Cole, I know you watched the fight. How did you see Davis' performance this past weekend? Tell me how you feel about it. And how would you rate the performance on the scale from 0 to 10? 0 being, of course, a lackluster performance, and a 10 being a perfect performance. How would you rate and grade Tank Davis' performance this last weekend?
To be honest with you, I'm gonna give him a 10.
Wow.
I didn't even think this dude could get better, but he actually, to me, looked great, man. I had no complaints about how he boxed.
Yeah.
I felt like he looked powerful. I felt like he was under control. I felt like he looks like he's hungry.
Did he show some class?
Hungry. And I think that going forward, every boxer in the division better beware. And that's how I truly feel.
But you got JT pointing at the monitor. You ain't hear what he said. But I heard what he said. JT said, did he show some class?
I can see that. I felt like he showed class.
Now, JT, I'm going to give the mic to you. What do you mean by did he show class?
And that's why I can't give him the 10.
Okay, explain.
Because the way you broke down the class situation to me, like as far as the what was the main thing that stood out when you sit in class? Like your whole aura in the boxing ring, the whole all around aspect. Didn't see it.
What you think he lacked when you say you didn't see it?
Footwork.
Okay.
Footwork. It's like, to me, like when he did get touched, when he did get hit, it was because he was pivoting with his footwork. And that's the only thing that I saw that like, because I couldn't, the hands is there, but it's like the footwork.
Well, do you think when you say footwork, do you think he overcommitted on things? Do you think he didn't use his feet as much as he should have? Or when you say class, do you mean like, of course he looked good because he was fighting an inferior, well, a less, how can I put it, less competitive opponent, meaning that he's not on the same level as him. Are you saying that he should have looked better facing that type of competition? Did it, in other words, did he, to me, it's kind of like, I think what you're saying is, and tell me if I'm wrong, we already knew that Tank was better than this guy, but does it seem like Tank kind of dropped his level down to the guy's level instead of showing like he's superior?
Yes.
For example, when we used to watch Floyd, no matter who Floyd fought, he always looked superior, no matter if it was a bad opponent or a great opponent.
That's exactly what it looked. I couldn't tell who was
at times. So at times, is it safe to say that you think that the fight was even or might even favored Garcia based on that?
Not one time. But that's exactly why I say Tank didn't show that superior, because it looked like they were just trading. Trying to see, like how we were saying how Tank would have to feel his way out, have to feel how a boxer hit. He didn't get hit until he would make, you know what I'm saying, till he hit, like his positioning wasn't right. He might get caught because like he was waiting on the punch or to counter. But it's like the other guy was too. So when he didn't counter and get the counter, it's like he would get caught trying to move.
Right.
If that makes sense to me. So, so he didn't show that superior. Like I thought he should have been a dog on him the whole time.
Right. So what do you rate his performance?
I'll give him an 8.
Give him an 8.
I'll give him an 8. I'll give him an 8.
What you got? You was about to say something, Cole.
See, I see what you're saying, but I feel like Tank was experimenting with this fight. I felt like he was trying to see what he could do, what he can't do, what he needs to work on, what he's playing around with to see what he got better at. I think that if he was fighting someone else, I think you would see superior footwork and skill work because he'll be more protective.
And I totally, that's why I can't give him the 10. Because he went in there on experimenting. Like you still trying to add to your bag when you're supposed to be showing the world what all you have in your bag. To me, that's how I looked at it. Like, because when we talked about class, remember I kept asking y'all, like, man, what is class to y'all? What is class to y'all? And it was the whole overall dominance of when you're fighting. You showing not just technique, but you showing skill on another level, as to where it's almost veteran in you, right? Isn't that what? So it's like it looked like he was like, let me see if this will work. Let me try this.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna give you an example. I remember back in college, me and Baker played ball. He a D1 basketball player. I'm a student manager. Baker said to me, "You wouldn't score if me and you played." And I assumed that when we got on the court, Baker wasn't thinking about bringing out his crossover, bringing out extra stuff out of his bag. But when he saw me score, he had to realize, okay, I might have to pull one of these tricks out of my bag because Gerard might beat me or Gerard might score a few more points or whatever. And I felt like that's the same thing with Tank. I felt like Tank was like, you know what? I'm going to try some stuff because I got some fights coming up. And there's some things I've been working on in the gym, and I want to see how good I am at that, whatever. But I believe that if Baker was now playing someone who went to Duke, he's going to come out with everything he got. If there was a scout there watching him and he knew this was an opportunity to play overseas, to play in the NBA, Baker's going to pull everything out. I don't feel like Tank felt the need for it.
Okay, but I'm glad that's why I can't give him the 10, because how you started that whole example off is that when you said Bake and y'all brought up basketball, you said that he's a D1 player, Bake's a D1 player, and I am a manager, whatever. So if I have to say as a D1 player, man, you play basketball, you won't even, like, that's a dominating word. That's like me saying, I dog you. You can't get in here trying nothing. You're supposed to get out here and show me that you are like, he did it. But okay.
He made him quit. He made him quit.
And I agree. But do you not agree with that same energy that he gave in what round? The last round when he TKO'd him. That was what, 6th? 8th. You don't think
ninth?
He couldn't have done that in the first, second, third, or fourth when he was experimenting?
He probably could have. He probably could have. But I think that like some boxes, I think you make them last longer because you need for my next fight might be a tune-up. I might know the next fight I fight might go 12 rounds. So I don't need to just knock him out in the first round. I need to practice my win and start doing stuff to make the fight last so I could condition myself for when I fight the next fight.
Now, this is coming from the same person who stated that's what training camp is for.
Training camp is for that, but at the same time, there's nothing like real boxing against someone you never trained against. You get what I'm saying? Like you in training camp, I'm boxing against the same dudes all the time, the same people, the same camp.
But training camp, but that see, well, let me say that ain't what training camp is, Cole.
Hold on. Let me
Cole, training camp is you watching film on how that dude fighting. Everybody that you spar fights like that dude until you fight.
But they still not that dude. You could still try to emulate. It's like it's trying to be.
Okay, I got you. I understand.
And I have the backup quarterback trying to be Lamar Jackson. He still ain't Lamar Jackson. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that. I mean,
let me add this. I get what both of y'all are saying. I mean, of course, what Jason is saying is Jason want to see if you that dude, if you that A-level fighter, you come out and dominate.
Let's kill all assumptions.
But I understand what Cole is saying in the sense that I think about it like this. I think with Gervonta Tank Davis, and if you watch his fights, majority of his fights, much like Floyd, comparable to Floyd, those first 4 rounds is to kind of compute and see. One thing about Floyd Mayweather Jr., he used to say is, I don't watch tape. And when he didn't watch tape, it was the first 4 rounds is when he watched his tape in the actual fight.
Okay.
He's filling out the
that
fight.
Makes sense.
You know what I'm saying?
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I get what you're saying in a sense, but everybody knows if you watch Tank, he kind of gives away the first 4 rounds. That's why I say,
and see,
Tank,
that's why it hurt me because I had predicted on 5.
Right.
And the reason why I predicted the 5 was I was like, okay, he's not gonna do that this time. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I'm not saying it is right or wrong to do that, but you know, at the end of the day, but if you watch Tank fight, that's his pattern. Usually gives up.
That's his pattern.
Right. Now, I see what you're saying. The kind of power that he has and he possesses, it's like when you see him knock him out and you see him put him down so easily, as a boxing fan, you're like, why not just go in there and do that in the first 4 rounds? But at the end of the day, like Chuck said, like Cole said, the end result is this: he knocked him out.
Yeah, he did.
I'm gonna give the performance a 9, and the reason why I'm gonna give it a 9, of course, the knockout. I expected that. When I'm watching him now, I'm kind of changing my whole mind frame. I mean, I've been saying, watching his last couple of fights, he's shown me that he's more than a puncher. He is a boxer. The reason why I don't give him a 10, and I kind of go back and forth on this, not giving him a 10. I don't give him a 10 because to me, much like Mike Tyson, he takes a lot of punches. And I think for a fighter of Hector Garcia's magnitude, a fighter like Mario Barrios, who he fought before, taking those punches don't hurt him. And he knows that. However, I give him a 9, and I say this to back that up. I'm watching that fight, and I'm watching him take punches, and I'm watching him take punches down the pike. I think for Garcia, he got away from, and I think a lot of fighters don't know this, in order for you to beat a fighter like Tank/Tyson, you have to work the jab. When Garcia started the first 3 rounds off, he worked that jab. Now, what Tank showed me is he's definitely got a chin. And I don't think there's nobody that can knock Tank out. I was on record on this podcast saying before, I think between Haney and Shakur, they'd be the only ones that could beat him. But when I watched him on Saturday night, I may even change my opinion. I think the only person that can beat him is Shakur. And the reason why I say that is Shakur, much like Floyd, when you fight a puncher like Tank, one of the biggest things you got to do in order for you to beat Tank Davis is you got to keep him off of you. The only way you're going to keep Tank Davis off of you is that jab. I'm sitting there watching Garcia, the first 3 rounds, he's boxing well. And the reason why he's boxing well, every time Tank, much like Tyson, when you seeing him do this and get ready to load up, you pop him with that jab. When he was popping with the jab, Tank had to reset. Now, Tank is showing a tremendous chin, much like Tyson. But The only way you beat punchers like that and guys that constantly put pressure on you have to jab. I only see one person in the game that can do that, and that's Floyd, which is Shakur. Shakur has a beautiful jab, and Shakur is smart. He's a technical fighter. I think Shakur will work that jab because at the end of the day, in order to beat Tank Davis, and I'm convinced now, the only way you beat him is with jab and distance. Garcia started to lose that fight because, yeah, he's not on the same level, but he stopped working that jab. And we know that Tank can take a punch, but right now, without looking at 135-pound division, I'm thinking the only person that can beat him is Shakur. And same thing, when Tyson lost off of jabs. Somebody that constantly jabs.
In distance.
Right, in distance. So I give it a 9 because at the end of the day, I mean, his power is incredible. I mean, I think he's 5'5", 135 pounds. I think his power is some way of
he's very hard.
205 or something like that. So
now let me ask you, why? I don't mean to cut you off, but why do you think the jab was efficient? Because if I heard it was backing him up.
You don't back Tank Davis up. You don't throw the jab against punchers necessarily to back them up. But if you watch Tank,
keep him off guard.
Well, a lot of times, much like Tyson, when you see him like this, if you saw Tank coming in, he'll block a punch, he'll block a punch, he'll block a punch. But much like with punchers, most of his power comes from his hooks and the twisting of his hips. You naturally have that. When you have a guy that's a power puncher, much like if you go to Manny Pacquiao when Floyd fought him, rather. If you watch Floyd, he never traded with him. He would throw that jab down the pipe because Manny always coming like this. And
he's
gonna hit load up.
He gonna hit awkward.
Right. And so when somebody coming at you like this with rhythm and they get ready to throw, power punches are not usually thrown in jabs. They're usually thrown in hooks, changing your hips and all that. If you watch Floyd fight, what Floyd did was, because this is what you got to do with punches, you have to jab them because every time you see him coming loaded up, you hit him, that gets him off guard. May not back him up, but he got to reset.
And that's why I say every time that would happen, his footwork would have to, his footwork would be off.
Right. And that's why I say that resets his footwork. Because if somebody, I watched Devin Haney beat George Kambosos twice when he became undisputed. And the thing that Kambosos said was, man, he got a hell of a jab.
He keep me off him.
Devin Haney all night didn't do nothing special but the jab. Because every time Kambosos would load up, he hit him down the pipe.
Yeah, you're right.
You watch Canelo versus Bivol. Bivol won the fight of the year. The only reason why Bivol beat him is because Canelo didn't throw no jabs, and Canelo kept looking for the power punch. When you fight punchers, when you fight guys with power, you have to disrupt that rhythm. When they coming forward like this, they get ready to load up. If you coming at me and you get ready to if I hit you in your face, you got to reset. You see what I'm saying? So I give him a 9 in the sense that, to me, my only criticism of Tank Davis now, I think his footwork, I love the way he pivot. But at the end of the day, I think he takes too much punches, even though he wins. I think against a master boxer, a Shakur Stevenson, maybe Devin.
He can't take that many.
I think, no, he can take the punches, but it's going to rack up in points.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Somebody steady jabbing you, even though it don't hurt you.
That counts.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, when you get into the later rounds with that jab, now if somebody keeping you at distance, every time you load up, boom,
you got to recoup. You got to think of a whole. You got to put somebody
mentally as a puncher. We saw it with Pacquiao when Floyd kept punching him. Now you get to the later rounds. Now I got to take a chance. Yeah. Now I got to get out my stance. Now I got to go into something wild.
Switch up.
Right. So again, I give it a 9 just from a boxing sense. But it's impressive what he did.
Yeah, very.
I will continue to say, and I see what Cole is saying by 10. By 10 standards, he came in the ring. Yeah, he gave away the first couple of rounds, but he wasn't affected to the point where it looked like he was uncomfortable. He was computing, he was scouting. And some people say for Hector Garcia, who was undefeated, Tank gave him the proper respect. Come in. Let me give this guy the proper respect. Let me kind of compute. Some people say that. People that maybe side with Cole would say, well, you know what? That's a seasoned fighter. Give the proper respect. Don't come in wild, blah, blah, this and that. But I can understand from Cole's side, too, the way it ended, and you got to look at it like
It was
this.
very
And we
impressive.
move, yeah, the guy quit. And at the end of the day,
That's
anytime this guy is a high level fighter. I gave Tank a lot of credit for fighting this guy, because if he was under Mayweather Promotions, the risk he
wouldn't have took that
took
chance.
fighting this guy, and then it was only Tank's belt up. So if Tank would have lost, he would have lost his belt. So at the end of the day, when I think about that, and when you make a high level fighter quit on the stool,
Yeah, that's impressive.
That's impressive. So I can understand why Cole would give him a 10. I go on record again. I'm not even so sure Haney, and it's not that Haney doesn't have superior boxing skills, but again, as strong as Tank is, and as well as a boxer as he is, one of the things you have to do, why it's so hard to beat punchers like that, is you have to keep them off you. If you don't work that jab and you don't work distance and angles all night, it's going to be a long night. So I don't know if Haney is strong enough. And people say, well, how can you say that Shakur is coming up from a weight class? Yeah, but when Shakur shows up on fight night, he balloons up to 140, 45 pounds. And Shakur, much like Floyd, he don't get hit. And he sticks to the game plan, but Shakur works the jab and understands distance. That's the only person I see at 135 that got a chance of beating Tank. And again, if he stays disciplined behind that jab, I think he has a shot.
I agree. I just love the way that it went from having a chance. It went to these boys got a chance to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I recanted my statement. I thought Haney could beat him, and I'm sure Haney. I'm not saying it, yeah, but again, what I'm seeing from him, and I add this last point, and I think what Cole is saying too, what I'm seeing from him, and this is what really impresses me about him,
the progression.
The progression, but he's maturing. He doesn't look angry to me at the press conference after the fight when he was talking. He looked relaxed.
That's when I saw the class. That's when I saw the class.
He's smiling. He looks like when he's on the microphone, when I think he was talking with Jim Gray at the end of the fight, he just seemed relaxed to me, man. And the best fighter is a relaxed fighter versus an angry fighter. And on top of everything he just went through, he held his composure with the case. He maintained that he was innocent. And when he fought, it looked like he was at peace to me. And even on All Access, his trainer, Calvin Ford, said, we're seeing him mature into a man. And so right now, when I see that, when I see what he's turning into, and I see how he's boxing, he's in a good place. And, listen, sky's the limit, you know. But I will come on here and recant my statement. I was a little bit upset because I wasn't seeing him fight top level fighters. But now that I'm seeing him, this is all I wanted from him. And get away from Mayweather.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
All right, Cole, I know we spent a lot of time on that topic, but let's get to this next topic because I'm on fire about this topic. I'm so hot. We talking about the big fish, and I represent Texas. I've been on record to say that I still think Errol Spence Jr. has a chance at beating Crawford. I'm going for it. But this situation we got to talk about, and I know it's going to make Cole look like he know what he's talking about. Sometimes he know what he's talking about. But here's the news, ladies and gentlemen, and I cannot believe this, and give me a chance to break this down. Errol Spence Jr., the WBC, WBA, and IBF welterweight champion, that's 147 pounds, ladies and gentlemen. That's the darling division. That's the division that Floyd made popular. Is agreed to fight Keith Thurman. Actually, they're finalizing a deal for a 154-pound fight that is expected to take place in April. Sources have confirmed, ESPN Michael Coppinger. And so here's what's bizarre about this. Let me break this down. What's so bizarre about this situation is about a month or two ago, the WBC, which is the World Boxing Council, that is the green belt. A lot of people consider that to be the top belt, had their convention by which they announced mandatories. And they mandated that Keith Thurman is the number one contender in the WBC for the 147-pound division, which is the welterweight division. which of course, again, is one of the belts that Errol is holding. Spence came out early in his boxing career and said that he would never fight Keith Thurman. Now we fast forward, it's been mandated. And in the midst of all this, we don't have this Terrence Crawford fight yet. But Spence agrees to fight Keith Thurman at 154-pound weight limit. Now, here's the issue with that. First and foremost, you're fighting him at 154 pounds, okay? Neither one of y'all are ranked. Errol, you're the champion at 147. Keith Thurman is not ranked at 154. So let's talk about this. This is the business of boxing. This is the reason why I think boxing in some ways is losing into MMA and UFC. So now, Errol Spence accepts this fight. He's going to keep his belts. He's going to defend. He's going to fight his mandatory challenger at 147. Now, here's where the situation looks janky. So if he fights Keith Thurman at 154 for no belts, and then they're going to try to put it on pay-per-view. So here's the thing. If Errol beats Keith Thurman, and I think all of us would agree that Errol is going to beat Keith Thurman, nothing happens. Nothing happens in terms of the 147 division, the welterweight division. And that's what we all waiting on. We waiting on Errol and Bud to get this done because we want to see who's the number one fighter at 147. And plus, nobody else in the division can do anything that's meaningful. For example, Boots just won on the undercard. Boots is now the number one IBF contender at welterweight division. That's one of Errol's mandatory at the IBF. Errol is not mandated to fight Boots, so Boots got to sit around and wait or fight somebody else. But if Keith wins, and I think we all agree that Keith won't win, Keith doesn't have a shot at the belts. And is Errol going to fight Keith, beat Keith, and then come back down to 147 to fight Terrence? If that happens, and let's say Errol does beat Keith, or let's go back to the scenario. Let's say if Keith beats Errol. When Errol comes back to 147, if he does, guess who's still his number one mandatory challenger in the WBC? Keith Thurman. So you're going to fight Keith at 154 for no belt. And if you come back down to 147, let's say you and Crawford don't fight, you're going to have to fight Keith again for the belts. Now, some people will say for the Errol Spence fans, well, Terrence Bud Crawford did this with Abanesian. He had no business fighting Abanesian. Abanesian is a number 6 ranked fighter at the WBO. Yeah, but the difference is at least Crawford put his belt up. So now check this out, Cole, and I want to get your opinion on this because it's more to this. And I'm calling out the sanction bodies on this. In order for Errol to get this fight, the sanctioning bodies, meaning i.e. WBC, WBA, and IBF, they have to agree to allow this to happen. Okay. I found out today that the WBA, which is one of the sanctioning bodies that Errol holds the belt for, okayed this. And the WBA made these stipulations. I want you to hear this because this is why I'm starting out to like boxing. The WBA says that Errol can do this only if he agrees after this fight to either fight Terrence Crawford for undisputed or give their number one contender, Stenonius, a shot at Errol's belt. So this particular sanctioning body is allowing this to happen. They're allowing Errol Spence to fight a guy that he's supposed to be mandated to fight for no belts, no consequences on his side in order to try to get this fight. They got the stipulations that he either is going to fight Crawford or get into negotiations after he beats Keith at 154 or fight their guy, their number one guy, Stenonius, at the WBA. Now, for all you Errol Spence fans, Errol's got a shirt that says strap season. And on that shirt, the big fish Errol Spence is dressed up as the big fish walking through the hallway. And he's already walked through these other doors and beat these other guys. I'm going to bring the t-shirt in. And the doors are closed because he beat everybody else to get through these 3 belts. On the latest shirt, it shows Terrence Crawford initials on the door. He opens the door and look in for Terrence Crawford. Like, where he at? So we can do this undisputed. But he goes up to 154 to fight Keith Thurman for nothing so he can hold on to the belts. My question to these Errol Spence fans, and Cole, I want you to talk about this first. Is it really strap season? Does this make sense? Because not only what I just said, but because Errol is deciding to do this, nobody else, the young guys in the WBC rank, WBA rank, IBF rank, nobody else has a chance at a championship fight because we're waiting on the champion to fight somebody for no belts. So Boots, Stanionis, Virgil Ortiz, we all got to wait for Errol to go fight a fight that has no ramifications for our division, yet he holds all the belts. Now, Cole, you've been a supporter of Bud Crawford. Tell me how you feel about this situation, because again, I just said it. Even though Terrence Crawford fought that fight and it wasn't a fight that we wanted Terrence Crawford to fight, he got paid, which y'all talk about the bag, but not only did he get paid, and people say, well, he had no business fighting that fight. If he'd have fought Errol, this would have never happened. But when he fought this WBO fight, he put his belt up. Cole, have you ever heard of any champion who holds a belt not putting their belts up? Is holding up the whole division.
Not unless we watching WWF or WCW back in the day. That
Thank you.
I definitely feel like now that I look at it even more, I just feel like he's ducking people, man. He's trying to keep the title as long as possible without having to fight anybody substantial. And I feel like when he does fight Crawford, if it does happen, in the near future, I don't know if we'll see the same Crawford he would have saw from last year if he would have fought him, or early this year if he fights him. Because in all honesty, if he fights him, I think it's going to happen closer to New Year's.
And some people are saying that, right. And some people are saying that Errol is doing this to stall out Crawford because Crawford is older.
Yeah.
And some people say, again, like you said, Cole, or you alluded to, the fight was supposed to happen. Now, of course, first and foremost, and ladies and gentlemen, we're reporting on this because we constantly report on this. Let me say this, because this is holding up the darling division. This is the division that Floyd made popular. Floyd, Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman, Kell Brook, Sean Porter, Errol Spence, Danny Garcia. Some of the great fights, some of the best fights on pay-per-view. And so a lot of people think that, and Terrence came back and said this. Some people said, well, the fight didn't happen because Terrence didn't have an agent, a promoter rather, and then Terrence didn't have any pay-per-view numbers. Terrence wanted a guarantee, and he couldn't get the guarantee because there was no numbers to back up what he would be able to produce as far as pay-per-view numbers. Terrence goes and says, well, you know what? I agreed to all their terms, but the only term I didn't agree to is that they did not want me to fight in 2022. And I hadn't fought all year, and I decided to go get a fight in my hometown of Omaha, Nebraska, plus Black Prime, the network that was doing the fight, was supposedly putting up $10 million. According to reports, we don't know the exact number, but we heard that he got a bag and Black Prime was good with that. But now when Errol Spence does this, it just looks like he doesn't want to fight, or it just looks like he's flexing. And then to have these commissions allow this, to allow Errol Spence, and so Spence said he wanted to spin the block, but for allow him to have a fight with somebody for no belts, and the guy that he's fighting is a natural welterweight. Mm-hmm. It's just asinine to me that a champion can fight his mandatory at another weight class when he's mandated rather to fight at 147, So if Keith wins, which we know Keith is not going to win, but the possibility, if Keith wins, he gets nothing. And I'm not buying the pay-per-view. I'm sorry, Al Heyman. I know the WBA stands for what benefits Al because they went through the WBA to do this.
Wow.
But I want all boxing fans. And again, I've been on the record. I still think Errol Spence can beat Terrence Crawford. But if you're a pure boxing fan, please don't support this on pay-per-view. They robbing us. They going to put this on pay-per-view and there is nothing. Unless you Tank or Ryan, and in particular Tank. Tank is a pay-per-view star. You will pay to watch Tank. But don't let the boxing community rob us by making us watch a pay-per-view fight with the champion who's not putting his belts on the line.
See, now that you done broke it down, I've changed my opinion. I thought he would. I'm gonna let Cole. I'm gonna go and let Cole go first. I'm gonna let Cole go first.
Cole been riding with Crawford, and I don't want to make it seem like Cole is with this because he just with Crawford, but you know, Cole has been on the record saying that something doesn't look right from Errol Spence's side.
Okay, so if let me be clear. Let me make sure I'm correct. Errol has to fight.
He doesn't. He has. So here's the thing. Errol's got all 3 belts, and this is what comes with having a belt. Each boxing commission comes up with a mandatory, says, based on the rankings, this is how they supposedly give everybody a chance who's trying to become a champion. If you rank, let's say the WBC, World Boxing Council.
Mm-hmm.
So Errol is the super champion. He's got the green belt. Then there's rankings underneath. For example, Keith Thurman is the #1 challenger in the WBC at 147.
Okay.
The commission will come, the WBC will say, okay, Errol, as a challenger, as a champion, we mandate you to fight the #1 guy.
All right.
Because how does this guy ever get a shot at the championship if we don't mandate it?
Okay.
The WBC mandates that he fights Keith Thurman. Now, Errol went on record before and said he'll never fight Keith.
Okay.
Which is crazy to me. We talked about that last week. Sometimes Errol runs his mouth too much. Like he's the boss, but he's actually not the boss. Al Heyman's the boss.
Okay.
The WBC mandates that he fights Keith. Now, he's got mandates to fight Keith. He's got a mandate in the IBF. Boots is the #1 contender. The IBF mandated him to fight Boots.
At 147.
Yes. Also, the WBA mandated him to fight Stanionis. Now, Boots just had a fight. Stanionis just is getting ready to have a fight with Virgil Ortiz in the WBA. So the only person that's left is Keith. And plus, the WBC will take president over the other sanctioning bodies. So they mandated him to fight Keith.
But the mandate.
To keep his word that he wasn't going to fight Keith, he ain't going to give Keith a chance to win the belt. So he's like, I'll fight him at 154.
So that's what I don't understand. If you getting mandated to fight, what are you mandated to fight for? If the guy is if you got to give a guy a chance to win a belt, the mandation is because this dude needed a shot at the title. So you got to fight him for a shot at the title, but there's no shot.
That's what we talking about.
How is that possible though? Like
that's what I'm saying, because the commissions are allowing this. He is mandated. So the IBF mandated that he fight Boots in like 120 days.
Okay.
I mean, you have that amount of time to come with a deal, that amount of time to get something finalized.
Okay.
The WBC, see, each sanctioning body mandates you to fight somebody.
Okay.
The WBA gives their time. The quickest time is the WBC. They're next up on Errol's list, like, you the champion. You got to fight this guy.
Okay.
And so,
but it's for nothing.
No, well, you got to give everybody in that division a chance.
Just to fight.
Right. Now, anytime there's an undisputed fight or a unified fight, meaning that you have a champion that has more than one belt, they fight somebody. The commissioners get some money for it.
Mm-hmm.
So if Errol fights at 147, each commission gets money, whatever belt that he holds. He has a WBC, he has a WBA, and he has an IBF. All of them get paid. But when you hold all those belts, when you're undisputed, Haney, Charlo, you have mandates in that division. And they say, okay, it's time for you to fight for your WBA. You need to fight this guy, the #1 contender or the regular champion. So
how does he get the pass? Well, you
that's what I'm saying. That's what everybody's like, what's going on? How is Errol able to fight his mandatory at 147? How is Errol able to supersede the commission and go up to the next weight class, which he's not ranked, he's not the champion, Keith is not ranked, Keith is not the champion, and fight him at 154? Why would Errol even do that? Because at least Crawford, everybody thought he shouldn't have fought Avanesian, but Avanesian was ranked in the WBO.
Yeah.
And Crawford put his belt up.
Only thing I can see, man, is because now that you breaking it down, at first I was on Errol A. I was mad because I felt as like he was being petty.
Which I think he is.
See, I
think he's being petty because he said he never would fight
But
Keith.
see, this is what I'm saying. Like, I thought he was being petty towards Terrence. Like, you did it, I'm gonna do it on some tit for tat type thing. Some people
say that.
See, but now I'm hearing about Keith. It's like, oh, you being petty like this. So since you gotta fight him, you gonna fight him like this. I wasn't gonna fight you. It seems like I'm just being blatantly disrespectful at this point.
So if you win, Keith,
you still ain't nothing.
I still keep my belts at 147, even though I'm not fighting.
That's what it boils down to. Because that's exactly what it is at this point.
Sitting there waiting for them to fight him and Crawford, so they can vacate or the other people can get their chance.
Yeah, the only thing I could see, man, is him doing that to style out for Crawford, not on him, not to get. I think he's doing that to style out and be like, if I'm gonna fight for my belts, I'm gonna fight Crawford, and it's gonna be for that bag. It's gonna be something. Because even if he do fight Keith Thurman for them belts, bro, ain't nobody watching it.
But here's the thing: if you the big fish.
Yeah, that's why I say, man, because he could easily put up whatever the belt is for Keith Thurman, bro.
Right, exactly.
But I think he's doing it to be blatantly disrespectful.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying? Which is petty.
It's petty.
But at the same time, that's big fish. That's big fish. That's what big fish like. I'm gonna show you that I can pee on you, bro.
Yeah, but at the end,
you know what I'm saying?
What I'm mad about is boxing as a whole, as a sport. Yeah, everybody got to.
That's whack. That's whack.
So now Boots got to wait till they fight,
and it could be Earl's way of getting them boys like, man, Crawford, man, go on, Robert, what that boy's saying. Because I think he's trying to prove to everybody, like, I call shots. But like to Crawford,
you already called the shots. You got 3 belts.
Yeah, but yeah. And I also think it's weak that he told when Crawford came back, like, man, I'm ready now then. Let's go. He was like, nah, I'm hurt. My shoulder hurt, this and that. And
well, he was in another car accident.
But I mean, okay, we'll set up Terrence Crawford for April.
I agree. That's what I said. If you the big fish,
you know what I'm saying.
If you the big fish, fight Crawford.
So I think right now he really just on some big boy stuff, like you said. Like he think he can make these decisions and say what he want to say.
That the commissions are allowing him to do this.
Yeah, he must got that pool. He must got that pool, man. And he might be I'm glad you look at that. He might be also doing this. Like, oh, you trying to go up the one? You trying to fight Charlo?
It's still.
I'm gonna go up here then.
Yeah, but if Crawford was to fight Charlo, it would be some belts on the line.
Now what? That's 157 though, right?
It's 54. Oh. So Charlo is the man of that.
So he might be doing it to show that I step up here too.
Yeah, but even if you step up there,
put a belt on.
Well, if Crawford steps up to 154,
that'll be loud.
I told you he can activate his status on Charlo. Because Charlo has a belt at 150, has a WBO at 154.
Okay, well, let me ask you this: if Errol choose to fight Crawford at 154,
nothing is at stake. Nothing, no belts on the line. And why would you do that? You want to fight Terrence Crawford because you want to be undisputed at 147.
And that's what I think he do. I think he just sliding until he go ahead and get that big bag for Crawford.
That's cool.
I think he just doing it like, I'll fight the dude that I said I wasn't gonna fight, but I'll do it over here.
But for Terrence Crawford, people like Cole say
it's icing him.
Well, it's icing him, but like it takes away your credibility because, okay, Crawford, I ain't fighting your Earl. I'm gonna fight this other dude, but I'm gonna put my belt on the line. Why else would I not fight if I ain't gonna put my belt on the line?
Because I told this dude I wasn't gonna ever fight him.
Nah, you holding up the division. You being petty. I get what you're saying on principle. A lot of people like, yeah, I said I wasn't gonna fight him, but y'all making me fight him. But you holding up the division.
Yeah, either way is weak.
Yeah, it's weak. Yeah. All right, let's get to the 2002-2023 NFL playoff picture.
Uh-oh, I don't know.
AFC bracket. All right, Cole, this is what we got. We got Kansas City with a bye. We got the Chargers at Jacksonville Saturday, January 14th at 8:15 p.m. NBC. You got the Dolphins on Sunday, Cole, taking on the Bills, 1 o'clock CBS. And then you got the Ravens at the Bengals on Sunday. Let's start with the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who you got, Cole, and why?
I got Jacksonville.
Whoa!
And I got Jacksonville because I'm big on chemistry at the end of the season. I like when teams start in the NFL. I really feel like Super Bowls are won the last 6 weeks of the season. You start to see who's really real, who's really been consistent, what defenses travel because the weather starts to change as well. So you have warm weather teams playing in cold weather places, and you see when they perform, it's like, okay. And I really like the way Lawrence is coming on, and I think they got playmakers. I love ETN. I think ETN reminds me a lot of Marshall Faulk or Edgerrin James. He's a very versatile back who, whenever they touch the ball, can do it. Can take it all the way.
And multi-purpose at that.
And multi-purpose. And then I think I really love their receivers and their tight end Evan Ingram and Kirk. I feel like they're castaways that always play second fiddle to great players. So they never really got that name recognition, and I think they have a lot to prove. They took short-term, low contracts that was like, prove it to me. And I really think that they're just hungry. I think they were laughed at last year when they had that funny coach from Ohio State, the one that was in the bar. You know who I'm talking about, Urban Meyer. And I just felt like they just looked in total disarray. They were just embarrassed. And now you start to see what having a real NFL great play caller in Penderson that was with Philly can do for a quarterback such as Lawrence. And when you have those players that he knows, such as Ingram, because he played against him in Philly, he knew that this tight end had some real superior tight end talent. He's putting it all together, and that defense is nasty. That dude they drafted out of Georgia, Walker, he's been performing. And then they got some safeties and corners too. I like it. I got the upset.
But and I'm not gonna lie, when I first looked at this, when we was putting this show together, my initial reaction was to go with the Chargers because I love Herbert. I love the offense, but yeah, two things for me, and you briefly just talked about one. Two things for me. One, in football and baseball, and me and you have talked about this off the air, and you alluded to it just now, but I think the team that starts putting things together towards the playoffs, as far as all things coming together with offense and defense, rhythm, I think are the dangerous teams in the playoffs. I think the Chargers are kind of limping into the playoffs, and what I mean by that is there was not a lot of consistency to me, even though they won, but it wasn't a lot of consistency that I needed to see from them going into the playoffs. For example, they'll have one good game, then they'll turn around and have a subpar game. I think Jacksonville has put together a streak of games to where all cylinders have been on go. I like that, especially in the NFL playoffs. I think along those same lines, and I think you kind of alluded to this too, I think on the back of adversity from last year, from their coach to this year, I've always seen this team this year kind of kept a somewhat of an eye on them. But this year, I've seen it looks like they've had a chip on their shoulder, like they're playing like they have to prove something. And so, and it's at Jacksonville. And that defense, I think, is underrated. I think people don't talk enough about that defense. And I think Trevor Lawrence is maturing into exactly. And when I mean maturing, I mean in between his head. I think he's always had the ability. I think he's always had the tools to be a great quarterback. But I think he's maturing. And it could have been Urban Meyer why he underperformed last year. But I think right now, what I'm seeing from him, of course, the running back, and of course the defense, like you said, but the momentum that they got going into the playoffs, I'm on board, man. I think Jacksonville wins. Give me a prediction on the score. I know you probably bet it. What do you think?
I'm gonna say 24-28.
24-28?
24-28. 24-28.
Jacksonville. How many? What does?
I think what separates them from the Chargers is that Penderson won a Super Bowl. He went to the Super Bowl with Philly. He knows how to call a game. He's had mobile quarterbacks throughout his career, even early on with Wentz, when Wentz was like moving around and playing well. And I feel like Lawrence brings a better version of Wentz. You know,
give me Lawrence numbers. What do you think Lawrence does in this game, passing wise?
I think he throws for at least 250.
250.
And I think he runs for at least 25.
25. All right. All right. I'm aboard with that. Miami at Buffalo.
This would have been a trap game for Buffalo for me. I think they could have beat Buffalo if Tua would have played. Because he has a great chemistry with Waddle and Tariq. And I felt like the times they played Buffalo this year, they were very good games. But Buffalo, because they're playing Skylar Thompson, I think it is, or they said last minute maybe Bridgewater could play, but I don't think Bridgewater could beat them. I think he's still a good quarterback, but I just don't think he has what it takes. I see Buffalo winning 31-14.
All right, I'm on board with that. What is Josh Allen numbers?
40 yards rushing, 4 TDs. 4 passing TDs.
How many yards passing?
265.
All right.
Diggs will have 2 of those touchdowns.
All right. I'm aboard with that. Baltimore at Cincinnati. This is also a division game.
This is going to be closer than people think because I think Baltimore plays with great pride, that defense, and it's a divisional game. So I think it's going to be a lot closer. Lamar's not playing. It came out on ESPN that he's not going to play. Huntley is still banged up a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens pulled off one and won it by like a field goal or something. But I'm assuming based off of last year and based on the way that Burrow's been playing these last few weeks, that the game is going to be 28-17.
Cincinnati?
Yeah, 28-17.
What does Burrow do? Rushing and throwing.
Throwing, I think Burrow might go for 300.
Ooh.
No. No. He ain't gonna go for 300. I'm gonna put him at 250 because it's a division game and they know him.
Any rushing yards?
But 3 TDs. I got him throwing 3 TDs.
All right. All right. So I believe if Jacksonville beats the Chargers, they got Kansas City next week. You want to do your predictions now? You want to wait till they win? You want to wait till see?
Yeah, if Jacksonville beats the Chargers, they do have Kansas City next week. That'll be a close one. I think that game is actually going to be high scoring if they play because I think Penderson calls a great game. But you never go against Mahomes. It's going to be in Kansas City. It's gonna be closer than what people think. I think it'll end up being like 27-31.
Okay. And you got
27-31.
You got the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, I got the Chiefs winning.
Okay. So you got Buffalo and Cincinnati. Who wins that? That's a good one.
Isn't that one of the games that they said that they'll have a coin toss to see who they play at, where they play at? Or is that only the championship?
I think they'll have to do a coin toss because I think they're even as far as records.
I would say that's a tough one. I got to go with Buffalo because I think Buffalo's been to the AFC Championship 3 years in a row. They're hungry. Well, not 3 years. Yeah, 3 years in a row. They played Cincinnati. No, they lost to Kansas City.
They lost to Kansas City. Remember, it was a close game.
Damn, that's such a hard one, man. That's such a hard one.
It's probably going to be, well, we don't know where it's going to be.
I'm going to go with Buffalo because they're going to be playing for Hamlin.
That's what I think.
There's going to be a lot of emotions there. I got Buffalo, man. I got Buffalo.
Got Buffalo and Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. Of course, I don't know if it's going to be in Kansas City because I think Buffalo beat Kansas City.
No, they said it's gonna be in Atlanta if those two play. If it ends
Okay.
up being
So it's at a
Buffalo,
neutral,
Kansas City's gonna be in
it's at a
Atlanta.
neutral site, which is going to be in a dome. In a dome.
Yeah, in Atlanta.
So who do you have? AFC Championship: Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills.
I just think it's the Bills' time, man. I think it's the Bills' time. They look like the hottest team besides Philly the entire year. And I think it's the Bills' time in the AFC.
I actually agree with everything you just said. That is so scary that we agree down to the T. So I got Buffalo as the AFC Championship. Let's move to the NFC.
Now this is where I'm gonna throw some wrenches in there.
Yeah, this is crazy. I know you like to go with the underdog. I want to hear this. So you got Philadelphia with the bye. Mm-hmm. You got Seattle at the 49ers at Saturday on Fox. 4:30 Eastern. Who you got? Seattle at San Francisco.
Great game. But San Fran's the hottest team in football right now. 10-0, going with San Fran.
Right. I agree. What's the score of the game?
Close game. It's gonna be 24-21.
All right. All right. Got San Francisco. Then you got the Giants at Minnesota.
I've been listening to Michael K all day on the radio. For some reason, the Giants fans are super confident we're going to win. And I could get it because the last time we played, the whole secondary was depleted. The game came down to 3 points. We have a great defensive line. Their offensive line sucks. We all know how Cousins, he's either good or he's bad. There's no in between for Cousins, man. And he's always known to blow games.
I agree with that.
As much as I want to pick the Giants, and I do believe the Giants could win, I'm going to pick Minnesota because I just feel like they have more talent. So I'm picking talent over what I believe is a better, hardworking team.
All right, I disagree. This is the first time I disagree. I think the Giants, I'm just never, as bad as this sounds and as good as their record is, I'm never convinced about Cousins as a quarterback.
I'm never convinced either, but I just think the talent around him is too great.
It is, but I also think the NFC East is a far more competitive division. And I just think that what the Giants has been through this year and how they've overcome, and what I see from the Giants, and we talked about this a little bit, they found ways to win. Yeah. All season long, they found ways to win. Even when I didn't think they were going to win. I just feel like the Giants are primed to beat the Vikings. I think it's going to be a tough game. But I got the Giants. I got the Giants in a close game. I'm going to say 27-24 Giants win by a field goal.
Put it like this, and this is the first time I say I want to agree with you, and I want the Giants to win, but I just have a bad feeling about it, man.
I get it. You're right. I think
how I feel about the Mets. I felt like the Mets had one of the best teams. We just
right. You know? I agree. Minnesota has all the talent, but again, Kirk Cousins, man, I'm not with it. I think the division that they played in, and I know they didn't play all their games in the division. People are gonna say you sound crazy, Bake, but I just think the NFC East, it was a gauntlet this year. Mm-hmm. And I think the Giants, if they're in any other division in that NFC, maybe not the West, I think they're at the top of the division. They even win that division. Mm-hmm. I think the Giants wins the NFC North if they in it. I think they're better than everybody, maybe other than Minnesota. But again, I'm a big guy for adversity. The Giants have found ways to win all year long. I'm going with the Giants. I understand why you would pick Minnesota, though. They are probably one of the most talented teams in the playoffs. All right, Cowboys.
You know what's so funny? It was when I think about the Giants is that none of the receivers scare me.
That's true, but again, that's why I say you're absolutely right about that. I agree with that. But again, the receivers are not one of the top receiving corps. But again, Cole, you got to ask yourself, in that NFC East, for them to win not just the NFC East, but for them to find ways into the playoffs and think about where they came from last year, shows me that without a good receiving core, and I agree with you 100%. I'm not going to say they're not good, but they're not one of the top. They find ways to win. That's one of, you know how you always pick the dark horse or the underdog. I'm going with the Giants on this. I got a gut feeling that they are going to, and I just think Minnesota can always lose a game.
Yes, I agree.
It's just something with the quarterback I don't believe in. I could be wrong. They have the talent, meaning Minnesota. They have the talent to go to the NFC Championship, but I just don't believe in Cousins. All right, Cowboys versus Tampa Bay, which is on MLK Day. It's a primetime game. Who you got?
Got Tom Brady, man.
Ooh.
They know they played bad all year, but this is the type of thing that Tom Brady does. He comes up with upsets, and there was a stat that they were saying this morning on ESPN radio. Every other year, Tom Brady wins, gets eliminated, wins, gets eliminated, wins, gets eliminated, and last year he got eliminated. This is supposed to be the year he wins the Super Bowl. I don't think he wins the Super Bowl, but I do think he upsets the Dallas Cowboys.
So you call it an upset? Is the Cowboys?
I'm calling it an upset. I think because Cowboys is probably the best worst team that I ever seen.
I understand that.
You know, every year I feel like they have the talent to win the Super Bowl, but they just don't play to their potential.
Yeah, I actually believe that. I'm actually going to ride with you on that. For the Cowboys, for me, it's their coach, and it's not fair, but I just have a hard time believing in Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, I don't like him as a.
I got the Buccaneers. All right, so now we got Philadelphia versus the Niners. This is a big game. I think they play the Niners. They get the winner.
No. Philly will play the winner of Dallas and Tampa.
Okay, so Philly gets okay. So you got Tampa, you got Philadelphia in Philadelphia versus Tampa. Who you got?
I got Philly in a blowout game against Tampa. If they play Dallas because it's a divisional game, just God forbid if Dallas wins, I think that game is a very close game, but I still got Philly winning.
I agree. No contest there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think Philly will blow out Dallas. And the reason why this last game that they played, I think they had Minshew playing quarterback and they almost lost.
Yeah.
Dallas almost lost. So I got either way it go, I got Philly. I think Dallas will give them more of a game. I agree with the blowout against Tampa Bay. I think Dallas will give them more of a game, but I still think Philly will edge out by like 10 points if they play Dallas.
I agree.
I got the Niners. You said the Niners versus you had Minnesota.
I got Niners versus Minnesota or Giants is a Niners win regardless.
Right. I got Niners versus the Giants. I'm with you. I got Niners beating either one. Mm-hmm. I think the Niners blows out either one of them.
And my bad too. My bad. Philly will play the lowest seed remaining, so it could be the Giants. The Giants.
So it depends on who wins, right?
Yes, it all depends on the lowest because the way football does is the lowest seed remaining.
Okay. So does that change the scope of things?
So if Vikings win, then they play San Fran and Philly plays the Giants.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If Giants win, then San Fran plays the winner of Dallas or what you call it, and Philly automatically plays the Giants because of the 60.
Okay. So,
or if Seattle wins, then they end up playing Seattle. If
so
Seattle pull off the upset with San Fran.
If I'm looking at this right, and correct me if I'm wrong, in either case, do me and you both have Philly and San Fran?
Yes, we do have Philly and San Fran.
Okay. All right. So it's in Philadelphia. Philadelphia versus the Niners. Who wins?
I got San Fran, man. I think because they're the hottest team. And I'll tell you this. I'll tell you two things. I've been watching this kid Purdy. That kid Purdy is all right, man. I think people sleeping on this kid. But what I always loved about 49ers, and they're there every single year, the last 3 years, I think they played in the NFC Championship game or something like that. But they're physical on both sides of a ball. The front line on the offense and the front line on the defense, probably the most physical offensive and defensive line. And I think, in all honesty, I think they have the best play caller in all of football.
So you actually think they can go to Philadelphia? Because that's where they're gonna. If they win, they're gonna go to Philadelphia. You think they can beat Philadelphia in Philadelphia?
I think they have a All-Pro running back in McCaffrey. I think they have an All-Pro receiver in Debo, and I think they have a top two, if not the number one tight end in the NFL. And then I think defense travels. I think their set of linebackers is better than any set of linebackers in the NFL. And I think their defensive line with Bosa and they're super physical. They get after the quarterback without even having to blitz. Their linebackers cover very well. I know Hurts can run, but the side-to-side game of San Francisco's linebackers is going to minimize him having too many explosive runs. It'll be a close game, but I have San Fran coming out the NFC.
Give me a score.
21-24.
Field goal.
21-24.
All right. Give me. So in your Super Bowl, you got the Bills versus the Niners.
Mm-hmm.
Who wins?
49ers.
Wow.
That's my prediction for the championship this year.
Okay.
And it hurts because I'm in New York State. I was raised in Buffalo. I love my Jets, Giants, and Bills. But 49ers is something special this year, I feel like.
Is there any way the Eagles beat the 49ers? How? What has to happen?
Purdy turns over the ball a lot. But I've been watching this kid. This kid is good.
You don't think the Eagles defense can do that?
I think they can, but I also know that San Fran can run the ball.
It's true.
You know, I feel like they're not one dimensional. The reason why they run the ball and they make it easy for them because that you have to play the run that play action opens up. You don't have to think a lot on play action. You pick one or two players to target, and you're gonna Kittle. You have to double Kittle, but if you double Kittle, then you got Debo, and if you double both of them, then you coming out the backfield with dunks with McCaffrey who could turn in a 3-yard catch to a 15-yard play. I just think I just think they're good, and that defense they're gonna sustain. They could give up big plays to Philly, and then Philly gets into the red zone and hold Philly to a field goal. That's how good San Fran is.
I mean, you make a great point. San Francisco, especially, I mean, I know that their offense they got the master play caller. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of weapons. This kid is riding a hot streak. I give you that. And I think this kid has been lucky or blessed in the sense that he's got the play calling behind him. I don't think he's as good as it's showing, but I sound crazy when I say that. I think it's a great offensive called team, and I think they've done a good job.
Like this, I don't think Lance is getting his job back.
I wouldn't say that. I'm not going to go that far.
No.
I think you're giving the guy too much credit. Now the guy, listen, the guy does have to go out there and do. He has performed, but I just think he's a young quarterback, and everything has gone well. He's got a stingy defense on the other side, and again, credit Shanahan, man. I think Shanahan has done a great job of covering up his weaknesses and bringing out his strengths. So I just don't think that's enough to go into Philadelphia and play against a stout defense with a quarterback that's not going to turn the ball over. Mm-hmm. I think San Francisco is that dark horse. I mean, I'm halfway agreeing with you on San Francisco. I think it's just going to be tough to go in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia's got studs on both sides of the ball, much like San Francisco.
They both do. They both do.
Right. I just think that the game plan for San Francisco with this young quarterback, Philly's defense all year, I think the game plan is going to have to be to perfection. And they've been doing that. Mm-hmm. Credit to Shanahan and that kid. But I just think Philly, it's hard to go in Philly and win. So I'm going to take Philly. I'm going to take Philly high scoring offense all year. I think they averaged the most points in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I take Philly 28 to 14.
Wow.
And then I got Philly versus the Bills in the Super Bowl, and I'm going with the Bills. I just think Buffalo, to me, Buffalo was so close. They took Kansas City down to the wire. I think with the situation that took place with
Hamlin.
Hamlin, I think that emotion and then the fact that the kid is I mean, it's really a miracle that he's out of the hospital already. I think that gives them an emotional tidal wave. I just think it's going to be too much for anybody to stop them. I believe in emotion, and I believe that's enough firepower to get them over. I already think they have the talent to win, but when you add that component, I know that's outside of football, but I think they win. I think it's the Bills and the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and I got the Bills winning.
And I wouldn't even be mad at that either because in the beginning of the year, remember I said earlier in the thing that I got Philly taking it all. It's just something about something's clicking with San Fran.
They are, and I get it. San Francisco represents that team.
They the Cincinnati Bengals of last year.
Right, and they might even be better because I think the 49ers defense is way better than what the Bengals defense was last year.
I agree.
I think the only weakness is the kid, but again, Shanahan has done a great job of, like, the kid looks like he's been playing football in the NFL for a long time. So I think that's great. It's a test of how he's playing, but it's also the play calling. However, I think Philadelphia is just stout on defense, and I'm not sure if they faced anybody like Philadelphia on defense this whole year.
So I have a question for you. Who's the best quarterback left in the playoffs to start the playoffs? Who's the best quarterback in the playoffs?
Man. It's all in the AFC. I know we talked about we both agree that Hurts should be the regular season MVP, right?
Yes, I agree.
Man, I just think it's Mahomes. I think it's Mahomes. And people say, well, you sound crazy if you're picking the Bills. I think it's Mahomes. I don't think just because he's the best quarterback that they'll get past the Bills. I think the Bills have everything on top of Josh Allen, on top of all the emotion that they're going through. But I just think, man, I think we overlook. I think he's number one in passing rating. I think he's number one in touchdowns. I think Jalen's got him beat. Jalen has not turned the ball over as much as him. But I just think, man, with Mahomes, and I said this before on on the previous shows, I just think for him losing, and tell me if you agree with this. Do you agree that Tyreek Hill is the most dangerous weapon in the NFL on offense? Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. That's why I said if Tua was there, it would be another story. I'd be scared.
Right. So I just think that people are overlooking the fact that, and maybe it's just me, I thought when they lost Tyreek Hill, I knew they were going to be good, but I didn't expect them to be, what are they, 12, 13-3, something like that. I really thought that they were going to struggle. And they have to a certain extent, but to see Mahomes elevate his game, I think he's the best quarterback because right now, whoever's playing Kansas City in that playoffs, how do you game plan for Mahomes? Now, some people say, well, yeah, well, how do you game plan for Burrow? How do you game plan for Josh Allen? Yeah, of course. I think those two have the same effect to a certain extent. But Mahomes is a nightmare off of RPOs, off of just the fact that Josh Allen, if I compare him to Josh Allen can run and throw. Josh will take a lot more chances than what I want my quarterback to do running. Sometimes Josh won't slide, he won't get out of bounds, and he can get away with that because he's a bigger quarterback. Every now and then, kind of like Mahomes, Josh will turn it over. He's a gunslinger. You live and die by that because most of the time he makes better plays than he does bad plays. But I just think with Mahomes, man, the way he can scramble, the way he can get out of bounds, the way he extends plays, he can throw the ball from anywhere. I just think he's still the best quarterback. I think the numbers he consistently puts up every year. And one thing I got Mahomes that Mahomes has over Jalen is playoff experience. Even though I do think Jalen is the MVP this year, I think Mahomes has shown us in the playoffs, and Burrow is getting there. I don't think Burrow has the natural ability of Mahomes, but Burrow is a baller. And I think Allen is a baller too. Sometimes Josh takes too many chances for me running and turning the ball over. But again, but I just think when you talk about playoffs and who's proven and who's going to always show up and be the magician that he is, I think it's Mahomes, man. I think Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the NFL, let alone even in the playoff, his playoff experience. Even though I think the MVP is Jalen's, I think Patrick Mahomes is still the biggest threat in the playoffs.
I can see that.
Think about it like this. Who's been, since they've been in the NFL, and it's not Burrow's fault, he came later, who has been the most consistent quarterback in the playoffs right now that's in the playoffs right now? I know that sounds crazy, but it's Mahomes. Yeah.
He's probably been the most consistent since he started.
Exactly. And so I just think that I think with the league, I think with everybody, and I went on the record and said this, I think everybody, what he's doing, we've gotten used to it. And so people have not talked about him because he always does this. But I've paid attention to it because I really thought that Kansas City would struggle because I think Tyreek Hill is just the number one playmaker in the NFL, period. And so losing him, I thought Kansas City, I actually didn't think they were going to win the AFC West. I thought it would be the Chargers. So just to see Mahomes do that and he's still putting up numbers, I still think he's the best quarterback. Even though Jalen deserves the MVP, I think Patrick Mahomes, I think people have gotten numb to what Patrick Mahomes does because he does it every year. Yeah. So it's kind of like, of course he's in the MVP. Right. Of course he's in the MVP conversation, but I still think with his experience, I still think he's still the best quarterback in the NFL. All right, so let's go. Let's talk about this story, man. This national story, and I'm glad you suggested this for the podcast tonight. But let's talk about this because this is a very good national story to talk about in the height of what's going on, in the height of Tank Davis with domestic violence. In the height of everything that's going on, especially now, you got the Me Too movement, but Jemele Hill blasts ex-colleague Stephen A. Smith at ESPN for going easy on Dana White after he slapped his wife. This article is from the New York Post, and I think it was last week, there was a video posted of Dana White, I think him and his wife,
it was at Cabo St. Lucas. They was in Cabo.
Yeah, they were looks like they were at a club or a party or something.
They were at a resort in Cabo St. Lucas.
Right. And I think the lady's name is it Annie White or Ann White, something like that. But he pretty much, there's a video showing him and his wife going back and forth in a physical altercation while it shows that I think Dana White slapped her like 3 or 4 times, open fist slap. And so Jemele Hill, who was a former employee of ESPN, comes out and criticizes Stephen A. Smith for basically going easy. I think, and you correct me if I'm right on this, but I think, did Stephen A. make a comment or did he just not spend enough time on this comment? But it says former ESPN personality Jemele Hill criticized ex-colleague Stephen A. Smith on her old bosses at Disney-owned sports network, ESPN, that is, for going easy on UFC head honcho Dana White after he was recently filmed slapping his wife during a nightclub incident New Year's Eve in Mexico. But she says that I think she believes there's not enough coverage on the incident. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did Stephen did he come to his defense, Dana White's defense?
No, Stephen A talked about it, but he wasn't as harsh as, that as harsh as they have been in the past with other individuals. I know later in the article that I was reading from Fox News, they even brought up facts of what's his name, Ray Rice, how he never played in the NFL again after, slapping his wife.
Exactly.
And they're just saying that the reason why maybe ESPN is not covering it as much is because he has a 5-year contract worth $1.5 billion.
Right. Which is I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to bring that up because UFC fights their fights, most of the majority of fights on ESPN, as well as some will be on ABC.
And actually, ESPN has the exclusive rights to the UFC for pay-per-view.
Right. And so for those who don't know, those fights, ESPN and ABC are all under the Disney umbrella. I definitely think this is a valid point. I mean, the video is pretty clear. I don't understand why and not just ESPN or ABC, but I'll call out all the news outlets. I mean, why isn't this not talked about more? Why is it not any consequences for Dana White? He issued an apology saying that, he's going to lose a lot of business. He's lost a lot of respect from other colleagues, but I agree. And you brought up an excellent example about Ray Rice. He never played in the NFL again. And some people could say, well, they talked about letting him get back in and they come back and say, well, no team wanted him. Well, we know that he was blackballed.
Yeah.
Right. So let me ask you this. We both agree that it's not enough coverage on it. What should there be a punishment from Dana White?
I think there should be a punishment. What's so funny is that I'm going to read a statement that she wrote at one point that happened in the Fox News. It says, given ESPN's huge financial stake in UFC success, Wagenheim's revelation is hardly surprising because ESPN is a business partner of virtually every major sports league in the country, the NFL, the NBA, college sports, and professional soccer, among others. The network's journalists face a difficult balancing act when major players of those leagues behave inappropriately, Hill wrote. Hill feels that Black athletes really get the favorable treatment that the UFC boss has received. They usually face harsher responses, Hill wrote, noting that former Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice never played in the NFL again after footage of him slapping his fiancée went viral in 2014. The Rice incident dominated ESPN at the time. So when it comes to this stuff, I could see her point because I feel like everything that has to do with Kyrie Irving and the comments surrounding that, they made a big deal about that for Kyrie Irving, but they didn't do anything to the Amazon or that was selling the product, the video. I didn't hear no apology issue from them. When it came to Ray Rice, that was all over the news. When it came to Deshaun Watson, that was all over the news. But whenever it comes to any type of white figure, when it comes to politics, sports, anything, it's brushed under the rug. You really hear about it.
And let me ask you this, and I agree with you 100%. Let me ask you this. I want to play devil's advocate. Well, I'm not going to say devil's advocate, but I want to ask you this question because if you're ESPN, let's say you're ESPN, let's say you're one of the top presidents or one of the top guys, what do you think? How would you handle this situation? What do you do? Because you're in business with this guy. He's making a lot of money, but what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. What would you do if you were an executive of ESPN?
If you're not gonna,
if this comes across your desk, because you got to have a meeting about this, how does this network clear itself, or how does this network how do they do us justice on this? Because again, much like Ray Rice, we've seen this video. It's not like people heard about it. We actually saw it. just like we saw Ray Rice. If you're working for the company, meaning ESPN, or you're under the Disney umbrella, what should you do, or what would you do as an executive?
So as an executive, the first thing I do, I will separate myself in incidents and say us at Disney, ABC, ESPN, with any affiliates do not stand for domestic violence, do not stand for abuse of any form against anybody, of any race, gender, or so forth, and separate myself. In addition to that, we want to donate money for this cause to whatever, blah blah blah. And then from there, I would try to demand that Dana White address it publicly, make a public apology, more better than what he just did, and probably even have an interview with him and his wife on TV to discuss it. Because I think this is a great opportunity for us to turn this into a teachable lesson for young people. Because all this does to me, it amplifies the courage of people to feel that it's okay to beat women and get away with it.
So you would issue a statement saying that the network doesn't support that action.
Mm-hmm. I will donate to the cause.
You would donate to the cause, and then you would have Dana White sit down and have a public interview.
Have a public interview, explain his actions. Him and his wife can talk about it and clear the air. And I possibly would fine him a certain amount if it's in the contractual notes or whatever. I would try to find him a certain amount, saying that my affiliation with you is hindering my product, and we want to find you this much.
I'm glad you said that, because again, I agree with what you're saying as far as a company coming out issuing a statement saying that we don't stand for this. I agree with you giving to charity. I agree. I mean, the interview, yeah, okay. But some people would turn around and say, well, where's the repercussions for Dana White? Of course, the network clears itself. The network says that they don't stand for that. But at the end of the day, what happens to Dana White? I agree with the fine situation, because that people, for me, I'm good with an apology. I'm good with a statement saying that, we don't stand for this. I'm good for charity.
Or even the next three pay-per-view, all the proceeds goes towards domestic violence.
And I'm good with that. But again, the example you brought up earlier, which is an excellent example. Ray Rice never played again. That's a repercussion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lifelong repercussion. And the reason why I pose that question is because I do think Dana White himself needs to face some kind of repercussion. Now, I know it's a business. I know at the end of the day, you got a great partnership with the UFC. You made a lot of money, and it's a business. I don't believe in terminating the whole network, making everybody else in the UFC suffer, but I do think there needs to be some kind of repercussion. I agree with the fine. I think the fine is the best way you can go as far as actual repercussions. Meaning something has to happen to him. I wouldn't call for him to step down. I mean, that's his company, but maybe it's a fine. I think he should issue a statement of apology. I think he should also make it clear that ESPN, ABC,
Disney
doesn't stand for this, and he did not represent the brand. And maybe for a while he shouldn't be doing any press conferences. Maybe he's out of the media. But I go back to that particular question, because you said repercussions. I'm with the apology. I'm with the charity. But I need something for him, and that's why I was asking.
Mandatory therapy.
Yes,
I think that's key. Mandatory therapy. That's key.
Yes, because and then you have to ask yourself this question: if a UFC fighter, and I would pose this to Dana, if a UFC fighter, one of your employees, Dana, who's on our network, if he's caught up in a domestic violence situation where we've actually saw the footage, what would you do, Dana White? There'd probably be a suspension. There would probably be some kind of fine. of course, those guys don't make a lot of money in UFC. So, that's why I say the repercussion. I brought it back to the point. I agree. It should be a fine. It should be therapy, something, but it's got to be something that he's got to participate in, some kind of repercussion or punishment. Because again, I'm all for the network saying, and I think that's great marketing on your end, and distancing yourself from Dana White. But I do think he needs to suffer some kind of repercussion. Shout out to Jamel Hill. Some people would say, well, she's bitter because, her and ESPN parted ways. No, I think she brings out a great point in the sense that, again, that's a great example about Ray Rice. We actually saw that on video, and he would never return to the NFL.
One of the real ones. He's one of the real ones that speak up about the political injustices that are occurring. I feel like all these individuals pick and choose their battles, because you got to think about all these. Look what happened to Robert Kraft. He gets caught up in a scandal when they raid the place. And how long was that in the news? All of a sudden, you forget all about that stuff.
Yep. Versus Deshaun Watson. We still talking about it.
Exactly.
And let me ask you this. If you as ESPN issue a statement, since the comment was kind of directed towards Stephen F. Smith on behalf of ESPN, should he make a statement?
I think that I see it two ways. I don't feel like he should be scapegoated for the network. The president should be coming on there. It's easy for the president to say, "Hey, I want to come on the show for a couple minutes and I want to issue a statement." A statement in live. It could be recorded. It could be whatever. It could be delayed. But I feel like they need to come on there and issue a statement. I feel like for too long, a lot of these rich corporate heads have been getting away with stuff that now is starting to come out from the people that dealt with the Weinsteins and all these other people. Like, you're starting to see names come out when you hear these court cases, and a lot of times they know what's going on. You chill with these people on a regular basis. You talk to these people on a regular basis. You're on vacation with these people. Stuff don't get filmed because there's restaurants. There's a place called I think it's Dumble House in Brooklyn, and it's one of the places where a lot of famous athletes, actors, a whole bunch of famous people go to, and you're not allowed to take pictures there. You're not allowed to do anything with your phone there because, I want to assume, and I don't want to assume because I ain't going to tarnish and I ain't going to say nothing on the network or whatever like that. But things go down that people will see, but they're not supposed to see, and they don't want people filming, putting on IG or anything like that, that will expose someone who's famous, popular, CEO, rich, whatever you may want to say.
Right.
I say all this to say that this Dana White incident is probably not the first, although he says it's the first. Probably not, but I don't want to, tarnish his name. So I don't want to throw out any false accusations or anything, but it happened. Usually those things are habits that you learn, that you see parents or you see, loved ones or you see friends do, and you pick up those habits and that becomes a natural reaction. Because I think slapping a woman, that's not something that you just get up one day and say, I'm going to slap a woman. That's something you either did before or you've seen before.
I believe that. I think if you watch the video and people could say, well, there's alcohol involved. When you see if you watch that video, it looks like they do that all the time.
Exactly.
It looks like they fight, and it looks like, because I don't know what the conversation was, but it was like, and I don't know when they caught the video. They may have been talking and arguing for a long time, but I think she slapped him and then he immediately slapped her. Or I don't remember exactly the sequence, but it was like, it happened so fast, and it was like, it just seemed like it was so easy to where it's like, man, they do this all the time. But with that being said,
what you got to take into consideration too is that you're involved in one of the most violent sports.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. It doesn't look good. And Dana White has come out publicly before and said that no man should ever hit a woman. And he said that in his apology that, the same thing applies for him. I'll give him credit for that. But at the end of the day, you represent a sport where it's all about violence, and it's showing men being violent with each other, and then you turn around and you hit your wife on national TV. That's a bad message because it shows a message that any UFC fighter or anybody that's in combat sports, and it sounds crazy, the narrative sounds crazy. It's okay to do that if somebody takes you there, which is 100% wrong, especially when it comes to a female being involved. So I agree. But I do think it should be some repercussions for him. I agree with you saying that the network needs to make a statement, charity. But I also want, and I'm bringing that out, that Dana White needs some kind of repercussion or punishment. Again,
I agree.
All right, let's move on. We got 2 more topics and we'll wrap it up. All right, Magic Johnson come out and says, skip over to the NBA. The 2 point guards we should be talking about for the 2022-2023 All-Star game are De'Aaron Fox for the Sacramento Kings, which is averaging 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. And, of course, your very own, which I think is the best free agent pickup in the NBA, Jalen Brunson, who's averaging 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists. As of today, both players have their respective teams. If the playoffs was to start today, both teams will be in the playoffs. Now, I want to start with De'Aaron Fox. Do you think De'Aaron Fox should be in the 2022-2023 All-Star game?
Yep. I think he has the Sacramento Kings 4th in the Western Conference. Right now, at this moment, with 18 losses, in all honesty, I only see 2 point guards better than him and Brunson.
Go ahead.
And I will argue that one of them is only better because they're named.
Okay, tell me. Who are the 2?
I think it's Curry and Ja Morant.
Okay.
Then I think it becomes Fox and Brunson as the next 2 point guards that I would take in all the NBA. And I was going down the list. I was like, it may be Garland. I put Darius Garland up there, but I don't think Darius Garland's better than Brunson.
Right. So,
and I'm not counting Luka as a point guard. I'm counting him as a playmaker. He's something different. That's why.
So with that being said, let me put you on the spot. Who is your Western Conference All-Star point guards?
It's De'Aaron Fox,
okay,
Curry, and Ja Morant.
Okay, in the West.
I'm carrying 3 point guards. I'm carrying 3 point guards for the Western Conference.
Okay, so who's your 2 guards?
2 guards is hard because I was having this argument with some fans on Bleacher Report that I think that they need to get rid of fan voting, for one, because fans be putting some outrageous stuff. How the hell is Derrick Rose and the center for Golden State being mentioned as possible starters? You know what I mean? Like, Looney is not an all-star starter. Let's get out of here with that, is one. But it's hard because Paul George has been injured a lot. I feel like Devin Booker's been injured. By name and by reputation, they should be starting.
It's rough.
I probably have to put CJ McCullough.
That's what I was going to say. I would say CJ deserves to be in there. Whether you put Paul George in there or somebody with a name, Devin Booker, I think CJ McCullough deserves to be in there.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the East. Who are the point guards? You said Brunson. Who's the other point guard that should be in the All-Star game?
Brunson and I think Garland. They're winning. Their teams are winning.
Any other point guards?
And Halliburton could be up there too, but I don't think he's better than those 2.
Okay.
Trae Young is nice, but I don't think Trae Young is better than them. I think Trae Young is great, but it's just something missing with Trae Young.
So, could one argue that Jalen Brunson could be the best point guard in the Eastern Conference right now?
I think he is. And Garland is right there though. Like it's hard. I don't want to say it so strongly, but I think for what he has to do and what he's asked to do in the turnaround of the Knicks, and it seems like he's a culture changer. And for what he did in the Western Conference playoffs last year, when Luka was gone, I don't see any other player doing that over there in the East outside of when Trae Young had that run against us. But I see Brunson that carried over. He got better every year. He reminds me of Chauncey Billups. He had a
Right.
slow start to the career and then just became just a perennial all-star year after year.
Well, like I said, I've always gone on record to say I think he's the best free agent pickup throughout the whole league.
Mm-hmm.
And people sleep
You
on
have said that.
right, and people sleep on Bronson, and people forget like he's a winner.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know he won
2 championships.
He won 2 championships at Villanova. And people don't talk about that. People don't talk about that. I mean, off the top of your head, Cole, can you think about NCAA players who won multiple championships just off the top of your head? I mean, was it Christian Laettner? Uh,
Yeah.
is it the Florida boys with what's the Florida boys that went
No
down?
Kid Noah, Brewer.
Yeah, I think they won 2 while they were in school. But I mean, right off the top of your head, how many players, especially guards, because guards in the NCAA, I think they're the cornerstone to championship teams. How many guards can you say off the top of your head won 2 NCAA championships in college? I mean, just think about that. You may be able to name something, but right off the top of your head, and my point to that is it doesn't happen that much.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't happen. And then again, he's a point guard. He's a point guard at Villanova. Now, if you got big men, you got athletic wings, that gets you to the tournament. May even get you to a conference win.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about, if you think about all the great teams, and I'm not saying this is 100% sure right, but I'm saying this is one of the things you need, one of the key ingredients to a formula of a winning college basketball program, let alone a college basketball championship, is you have to have great guards. To get deep in the tournament, I think you have to have great guards. So think about that. People don't talk about Jalen Brunson. To me, I don't think he gets enough credit, but he won 2 national championships in college. And now he's here now averaging 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists. And like you said about Dallas, I think people sleep on him a lot. And I think that's what's wrong with the NBA. And I asked that question about the All-Star game because I thought about it after me and you had a conversation. And I said to myself, I'm going to ask Cole this on the air. But he's probably the best point guard in the Eastern Conference.
Yep.
Who's playing better than him at the position in the East?
Nobody.
And so, I mean, we're going to talk about the Knicks next. This will roll right into the Knicks conversation. But again, I mean, let's think about that, man, for a second. That's why I'm asking these questions, because I think he's the best point guard in the East. And I don't think it's close.
Yeah,
I don't Garland is good, but at the end of the day, and you know, Garland played well. I mean, maybe other than Kyrie Irving, but I don't see Kyrie playing point guard. I see him playing 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But even Kyrie, with all that's going on with him, and Kyrie's going to always be in that conversation as one of the best guards. But I'm saying, who's playing better than Jalen Brunson at the point guard position in the East? And you might could say in the whole league. I mean, nobody's playing better than him.
The funny thing is that I was saying to myself, and I was comparing. I'm like, is Chris Paul better than him? I was like, nah.
Not right now. No.
I was like, is Dame Lillard better than him? And
Not
I was like,
right
and the reason why I can't say Dame Lillard is only because I can't say him is because he's been injured a lot recently.
Right.
You know, and I was just like, McCullough's playing good, but is he more of a point guard or 2 guard?
The 2 guard. He's more of a combo guard at that. But even then with McCullough, if you think about, let's go New Orleans versus the Knicks, and then we'll get into the Knicks right after this. But let's look at New Orleans versus the Knicks. McCollum has had a significant impact, but that team down there is great. Let me back up off of great, but let's say they're good. You got Zion, and you got a lot of pieces that they don't talk about down there. But if you look at the Knicks from the transition of last year to this year, what is the one of the most determining factors as why the Knicks are where they're at right now? Now, I know you don't agree wholeheartedly that they got everything right now to win a championship, and I agree with that certain. But if you think about it, one of the main reasons why they're playing so well, you have to attribute is to Jalen Brunson. I mean, his impact so far. And with that being said, let's go to your State of the Union about the New York Knicks. Give your synopsis on the current state of the Knicks and what you believe they need to do in free agency to possibly take the Eastern Conference by actually win the Eastern Conference or be in major contention.
I think right now the Knicks are starting to come together, even in the losses. And the losses could be disappointing because we've been blowing some losses where we had double-digit leads. It started in Philly with when they broke our 7-game win streak or something like that. We gave up a big lead to Philly on Christmas Day. And then after that, we followed that up with a game against who was it that we played again? Chicago, that we just recently beat. Gave up another huge lead with that team, and then we did it again somewhere else. But part of it in the beginning to me was a little bit of Tibbs. He's determined on not using his bench. He's determined on not liking certain style of players or certain players because for me, I like McBride. I think he's a tough young gun who can play some defense, but he's not better than Cam Reddish.
Right.
But I don't know what it is that he just doesn't like Cam Reddish. I can't be mad if he plays Grimes because Grimes shows up. Grimes hits clutch shots. Grimes plays defense. Grimes makes timely plays. Grimes, to me, plays the role that Reggie Bullock played when we had him and Peyton on our team. Right. He doesn't need the ball, but when he does get the ball, he hits the shot. He moves without the ball, so he's not just standing around. He creates the movement that we need so that Randall can look for him. And gives Brunson some space. And RJ's developing slowly but surely. He's developing. I don't know if he'll ever be a superstar, maybe a Luol Dengish, maybe a Larry Hughes type of player, just always a good player that gives you games where you're like, damn, he's pretty good. You know, he might be a little bit better than good today or whatever. But the state of the Knicks right now, what we're missing, I feel, is a backup forward, power forward, that is a little bit more versatile than Obi Toppin at the moment. Because okay, so I think Obi,
that's a great point. And I'm gonna let you finish on Obi, but after you finish Obi, give me a prototype or somebody that you think would fill that backup power forward role. But go ahead and finish your comment on Obi.
I feel like Obi needs an opportunity to start. I feel like he's never gotten a true chance to truly develop because he's playing behind Randall, who's obviously better than him. But I also think Obi is the type of player that needs a Chris Paul, that type of point guard who's going to look for him on pick and rolls, throwing some lobs. He needs a team like Golden State that's going to push the tempo, or De'Aaron Fox, who pushes the tempo hard. That's more of Obi, open court, LA Lakers, back in the day, Showtime type of team. That's Obi Toppin. That's what Obi Toppin needs. With the Knicks need when it comes to a forward to back them up, we need like a Patrick Williams, a Covington, right. Mario Saric, one of those players that can play a little bit of three, can play a little bit of four, can hit an open jump shot, who's not a liability, but doesn't need a lot of shots to fit in. You know, that's what I feel like that the team could really use. Even a Tucker, like a Tucker type of player, or something along those lines. Tobias Harris would be semi-side because he doesn't demand the ball. He's willing to play a lesser role, and that's what we need because we have a lot of ball dominant players. In regards to the backcourt or a small forward or two, but I think we need a two guard. I think we need someone more in the more of a Gary Trent Jr., someone who can score. But as you watch Gary Trent, he doesn't take too many dribbles to score. He knows what he's going to do. He makes a quick decision, kind of like Cam, which is why I don't understand why Cam doesn't play. I feel like, or we need a Levine or Beal who can score, but is not difficult to score. So as much as I love Brunson, he gets open, he does what he has to do. He has a little bit of Kyrie, Chris Paul in him where he makes tough shots. But we need someone who can make tough shots that are not tough shots, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. So you saying you need a guy, you need somebody who can get easy baskets.
Easy baskets, which Levine gives you easy baskets. I feel like Trent gives you spacing and he could give you easy baskets, but he's not someone who needs the ball to give you baskets.
Right.
Levine, he could do it with the ball, without the ball, but he gives you easy baskets because he's such a superior athlete. He could create the space. He could create for others. He could do different things. So there are two different type of players, but they're two different type of needs that we need that can actually propel us to the next level.
Now let me ask you a question and bring up some good points. Let me ask you this: with Jalen Brunson on this team now, what do you see? And you may have already spoken to this, but if you have, forgive me, but I want you to clarify if you have. What is the Knicks identity on offense right now? Because when you say Obi, and I'm building this off what you said Obi needs to be in a system where he can be more athletic. I think I heard you say that. And he needs a point guard like Chris Paul. Now, when I think about a point guard like Chris Paul, and you tell me if I'm wrong by you saying this, but when I think about Chris Paul, I think about Chris Paul being in New Orleans with Tyson Chandler.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember that year, Tyson Chandler was an all-star.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because Chris Paul was throwing, or the Hornets rather, was throwing the ball down to Tyson Chandler, and he was making plays, just giving the ball on the box. He was an all-star, much like Lob City, because Chris Paul was putting the ball where Tyson Chandler needed to be most successful for that team. In other words, he wasn't dumping the ball down low and say, big fellas, go get us a basket. Tyson Chandler was running the floor. One of the reasons why Tyson Chandler was an all-star is because Chris Paul put the ball in the places where he could score. He didn't have to dribble. He would throw a lob, or he would get out on transition. Chris Paul would put the ball where he scores. I'll say the great point guards, to me, know their players on the team, and based on those players' skill set, they get them the ball where those guys can show their skills. So for me, Chris Paul, in relation to Tyson Chandler, he put the ball where Tyson Chandler could be most successful, right around the rim. Lob City, if you think about DeAndre Jordan and all of them, it was because of the placement of Chris Paul, the placement where Chris Paul would give these guys shots. For example, a shooter. Chris Paul wouldn't give the shooter the ball in the paint to score the 2-point basket with somebody on him. Chris Paul would drive, get by his man, get the shooter's man on his right side, his strong arm, get his man to commit, get him the ball, boom. So with that being said, you use the language of that's what Obi needs. He needs to get out in transition. He needs somebody to get him some easy buckets, not necessarily give the ball to Obi and create, but get the ball where Obi can be best, athletic, out, easy baskets. With that being said, what is the Knicks' identity on offense right now? Because you use that point, and I'm assuming by you using that point, you're saying that the Knicks are not that so much of a transition team versus
they're an ISO team.
What are they?
They're an
What
ISO
do you
team.
think is their identity on offense?
I feel like they're ISO, high pick and roll team. And I feel like there's no creativity on the tips. Like whenever you see Obi, like if you remember him in college, he was doing a lot of Amari type stuff. He get the pick and roll, he'll catch it on the corner, on the elbow,
Right.
And he's working from the elbow down. With the Knicks, they have him shooting threes in the corner. Unless he's
it'd be better for, and I think you said that. I don't mean to interrupt you, but it'd be better for, and I think you said this, a stretch four that can operate off that pick and roll. I think the other night you said something even about bringing Melo back.
Yeah. I would be willing to trade Obi to bring Melo back because that'd be another player who's versatile enough to play backup for Randall. I think because you're only going to play about 10 minutes anyway off the bench when you're playing behind Randall because Randall plays 35 minutes a game. So you don't have to expect to play heavy minutes, and you just need to be able to give him a little break. I think actually Carmelo would be perfect if we traded Obi Toppin or getting a Covington or someone who could come in there and be steady on defense. But Obi needs to be with a De'Aaron Fox. He needs to be with a Chris Paul. He needs to be with a Golden State that moves the ball where he could touch the ball in different places, where you could run pick and roll and you have shooters in the corner so you can't cheat. So now he could use his athleticism, use a Euro step here or there or whatever, because Obi is nice around the basket. Obi's going to finish. Obi hits his free throws. Obi just never gotten a real opportunity because Tibbs is stuck in his ways. Tibbs is like, give it to Randall, give it to Brunson. I trust you. Give it to RJ. I trust you. Everyone else, get out the way. We're gonna pass you the ball if you get hot. If not, I'm putting someone else in.
And do you feel the same thing? You feel the same way about Cam Reddish? Does he need to be in that same type of system?
I feel Cam Reddish needs the same thing, because if you watch early Knicks games, especially in the beginning of the season, he was playing good. That's where everyone is confused as Knicks fans. Is like, he was playing good and you're not playing him. What's the reason? People think that there must be some beef in the locker room. He must have said something to Tibbs that Tibbs didn't like. But we all know that Tibbs even said it in the interview. He didn't want him when he first got traded to. So I felt like whatever bias it is, maybe he feels like he's not working as hard. But I argue with Knicks fans all the time. I said there's certain players who are just so talented, it looks like they're not working hard, but it's easy for them. And I just feel like, yeah, there's times when you might be like, wow, you took a bad shot or whatever like that. But I feel like he barely takes bad shots. I feel like his bad shots come because Randall or Brunson or RJ will dribble the ball until there's 3 seconds left on a shot clock, pass it to him. Now he has to take a bad shot. That's why his percentage is down. Because there's been times Randall comes down here, he's dribbled down, and what's his name's already set up in the corner with 15 seconds left and no one's guarding him and he didn't make the pass. I feel like if you were on Golden State, you would have got the pass. If you were on Denver, you would have got the pass. If you were on, one of these other teams that moved the ball like the Boston Celtics, he would have got the pass. And I think that's what's keeping the Knicks from becoming elite, is because I don't see that 100% trust of saying, regardless of, if I hit my shot or not, the right play like LeBron would make would be hit that man in the corner who's open. Because there's many times where Grimes is wide open, Quickly is wide open, and some of these other shooters, Fournier, that come off the bench are wide open, and Randall will over dribble. Right. Brunson's still going one-on-one.
So best case scenario, I mean, you've identified what you think needs to happen in free agency or trade deadline for the Knicks to challenge for the Eastern Conference, meeting against Milwaukee and the Boston. Best case scenario, if the Knicks don't do anything, are they a 5th, 6th seed going into the playoffs?
6, 7 seed.
6, 7 seed.
I think they'll get the 6 because I really do believe they're better than Indiana. And then the 5 teams in front of them: Philly, Boston, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and 76ers. And I honestly believe that they can beat, in a 5-game series, I do believe that they could beat 76ers. I do believe that they match up well against Boston. I don't think they beat them, but they could take them 7. I don't think they could beat Giannis.
Right.
I think Durant and Kyrie got their number, and I don't think we could score offensively with them for a full series. I feel like we could score offensively with Boston because you only really have to worry about Brown and Tatum.
Right.
And I feel like Randall and Brunson can match them numbers wise. And I think RJ, depending on what RJ you get, and Grimes can come up with a couple of games here or there or whatever. Right. But I don't think we have an answer for Giannis when Middleton's there. Right. I think Giannis eats our food. I think Giannis puts Randall in foul trouble. But I think outside of that, I think we could take any of those teams 6, 7 games. I just don't think we could beat them. Right. Only Philly, I really feel like we could beat Philly. I really do feel like we could beat Philly in the season.
I agree with that. I don't think y'all have an answer for Joel Embiid, but I don't think anybody does. But Philly has shown us that even when Joel Embiid is playing great, they still can lose games. Yeah. Some of his coaching, some of his personnel. I think y'all can beat Philly. Well, good analysis, man. One last question. Now, I know you've been very critical of Tibbs, and I think it's fair. Is it any scenario where Tibbs is gone? I mean, you gotta consider this. Y'all will probably be playing the best basketball since the first year he's gotten here. I think Julius got most improved that year. I think Julius was an all-star. I don't know if Tibbs is gone, man. If things continue the way it is, I think you're going to be stuck with Tibbs.
I think the only way Tibbs is gone is if we don't make the playoffs. We get to the play-in, we fill in the play-in. Then I think that we have enough talent that we would have blown too many games throughout the season, and Tibbs would need to be gone. I think that they'll let him play out his contract if he wins this playoffs, unless he starts the season off slow or we start off the season like this next year. But I don't think he makes it to a second contract with the Knicks unless we make it to the second round of the playoffs.
And you know what? Now that I think about it, now that you said that, I break coaching down in 3 categories. This is my view. I think you're not a good coach. I think you're a good coach. I think you're a great coach. Now, what that translates is, I think Tibbs, now that you just said that, I think Tibbs is the guy that takes you from not being a good team to a good team.
Consistent habits.
A good team, 4th, 5th seed in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe win your division. Can maybe catch Milwaukee on a night in the regular season and beat them. Can catch everybody on a night and beat them. Can show flashes. But I don't think he's that guy that takes you from good to a possible championship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Tibbs is done. I think he's had success in New York. If you guys reach the playoffs without the play-in, I think that's his ceiling. That's my opinion. But we all know with New York, you guys don't accept nothing, and rightfully so, but to win a chip. I think Tibbs has done his job to get y'all from where y'all were, which was bad, to now y'all are contenders. I think you're going to have to bring somebody else in to get you from a contender to a champion.
No, I agree with you 100%. When you say that, thoughts of people like Atkinson, I think of Mark Jackson.
Right.
I think of Monty Williams.
Right.
I think of Udoka.
Right.
I think of those type of forwards. Those are people who I've seen throughout their career make adjustments.
Right.
And I feel like Atkinson, the separate between him, because he's never, what he's done, he's taking G League players, young NBA players, and he's made them play hard for him.
Right.
He's made them hungry. He also allows them to make mistakes.
And I think
mistakes. And I feel like that's what the problem with the Knicks have, is that we say we want to develop our young players and have young players, but Tibbs doesn't have the heart for young players. He's like he has an idea about you. It's like that preconceived notion of being a black male in today's society. And I'm not trying to. Maybe this was a horrible comparison, but I feel like when we walk into places, people feel threatened.
Right.
People feel like whatever. And I feel like Tibbs has the mindset of, he's a rookie. He ain't going to be that good.
Right.
He's not going to make a smart play. I don't want to play him. I don't trust him. I trust my bet.
Right. I feel the same way. Remember, I told you that I compared it to when Van Gundy came down to Houston. I think he killed that next regime after Elijah won. Steve Francis, Cuttino Mobley, Michael Dickerson from Arizona, because he brought all his guys down from New York. And I don't have an issue with that. But Van Gundy, to me, you have those coaches that don't trust young players. And so no matter how much upside they have, they're looking for them to be 4th or 5th players before they really start investing in them. And some of those guys are just like that. Some of those old school coaches are just like that. And so I agree with you. But I do think that I think Tibbs that's his ceiling.
That's his ceiling.
And nothing wrong with that, but I don't think he gets y'all to a championship.
I think when it comes to a player like Cam Reddish, I think when he leaves here, he needs to try to get on with a OKC.
Yeah. And that's a good example about Cam Reddish. A good example about Cam Reddish, a coach that takes you from good to championship would maximize his talent right now on his team.
He just needs a chance. That's all he needs. He just needs, like, even a team that's great, like Golden State. But Golden State plays young talent. They'll give you a game or two where they'll let you play 40 minutes, and that's what he needs.
And here's the thing about Cam Reddish. Even if he doesn't give you 20 points a game, which I think he's very capable of doing, Even if you don't want to utilize him as far as scoring the offense, he's that great of an athlete that even on defense, he helps your team. If he's
exactly.
So if you don't use him on offense, the least it is you use him in defense, you use him on the passing lanes. He can guard bigger players, even though he's not big, but he's long. He's athletic. There's block shots there. There's steals there. There's playmaking ability on the defensive end. And if anything, and even if you don't run plays for him, there's 10 or 15 points in the transition if you can get out with Cam Reddish.
Exactly.
So
same thing with Obi.
Right. So I think a championship coach finds a way to get that on the floor and gets that done. Well, man, I think that's good enough, man. You know, appreciate you. I really appreciate your announcement on the Knicks. I think you spot on. We're gonna be ready to rock and roll next week. Another fire show to me. But from Mo City to New York, we'll catch up next week. We'll do it again. Want to thank Cole. Want to thank JT. Want to thank Chuck. Want to thank my whole Mo Serious family. Thank y'all for tuning in to the Debate with Bait podcast. Please, we need you to stream this on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow Mo Serious Entertainment on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe to Mo Serious on YouTube. We'll catch you next week on Debate with Bait podcast. Before we go, Cole, I've been meaning to do this. You tell me how you feel about this. Do you want to give out your social media information just in case anybody want to hit you with any questions or anything like that? Do you want to provide something, or are you just cool with what's going on right now?
I'm cool with what's going on right now, but you can follow me at RudeBoy56 on IG.
Good. Hey, man. Hey, listen. You got a big knowledge base, brother. You might end up doing, you might end up having the Cole. They might bring you in on ESPN in New York, man.
I'm actually supposed to be sitting in with and learning some podcasting stuff, like how to edit and do some stuff like that too. So I'm working on those things so I can bring to the table and add with us, Yeah.
Hey, man, I'm always like this, man. If you step out on your own, just bring me on as a guest every now.
I'm not talking about stepping out on my own. I'm talking about actual learning so that we can do this together, man. I like you right now. I'm learning from you right now. So,
Yeah. No, I appreciate it, man. This show wouldn't be what it is without you. But anyway, thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank the Mo Serious family. Want to thank everybody that's following us. Keep us in your prayers. Keep moving. And we out.
Peace.